Democratic Senator Mark Udall, a member of the Intelligence Committee, has been worried about this for years, but we should say you are restricted in what you can say since you sit on the Intelligence Committee. You have knowledge you can't share with us. So I know you're being careful with your words, but there are things out there. So let me first ask you, the President says, I think when you look at this up close, we have a balance. Let's take this one program at a time. There is the gathering of the so-called phone metadata, which is information about information. So that is, you know, what number called what number for how long. It seems as though nearly every phone used by a U.S. citizen has been gathered up. Is that a correct assumption?
Candy, I come from this at the start acknowledging that terrorism is still a real threat, that we have to protect the American people. At the same time, I also believe the Bill of Rights is one of the most powerful tools or even weapons that we have in this fight. As you pointed out, I have called for a number of years now for the intelligence community to be more forthcoming about the amount of data they're collecting on Americans. And in particular, you talked about metadata. The fact that every call I make to my friends, to my family is noted, where I am, the length of it, the date. That concerns me, particularly because Americans didn't know this. That's why I'm calling for a reopening of the Patriot Act. That's why I'm calling for a fulsome debate all over the country. Maybe Americans think this is okay, but I think the line has been drawn too far towards that we're going to invade your privacy versus we're going to respect your privacy.
But, Senator, there are no names attached to these numbers. These are numbers only that a computer searches through for weird patterns, for something out of the ordinary. You know, this person calls this person, that kind of thing. So, and as I understand it, people are not at this point looking at this. This is being gone over by computers. And that if the U.S. wants to listen in on any phone calls, they have to go back to a court. Is that correct?
The concern I have, Candy, is you're right. But if you think about that block of data, when you call, where you call, you can extrapolate a lot of what's going on. And we have contracts with the phone companies, and we understand they're going to keep these records. But phone companies can't charge you, jail you, prosecute you, eventually incarcerate you. So there's a different standard here. I expect the government to protect my privacy, and it feels like that isn't what's been happening. Again, there's a line, but to me, the scale of it and the fact that the law was being secretly interpreted has long concerned me. I'm glad we're having this debate. I'm very worried, by the way, about the leaks. I abhor leaks. I wish the administration had been more transparent. But again, this is an important discussion. We value our privacy as Americans. It's a part of our freedoms and liberties.
What's the danger now that what information we have seen in public is out there? What's the danger of knowing that the NSA is gathering up all phone information in the U.S. and that it has an internet program to get information from foreigners?
This is vast. Yeah, my concern is this is vast. It hasn't been proven that it works. Uniquely valuable intelligence hasn't been proven to have disrupted plots. And finally, it's only another step to take that computer data and involve human beings and further taking a look at it. And again, it's the scale of this that really concerns me, and the fact that the American public doesn't know about it. If the American public decides this is okay, then that's where we could be. But right now, it's been basically a secret program. The law hasn't been shared in the way it's being applied. That's what I've been pushing for the last 2 years.
Now, the DNI has said that this program has, in fact, thwarted terrorist attacks. Mike Rogers of the House Side Intelligence Committee said he knows specifically of an attack that was thwarted through the phone program now we're talking about. You don't believe that? You haven't seen that as a member of the Intelligence Committee?
I think the data is unclear. There's clearly indications that the 702 program, the so-called PRISM program that you're aware of,
that's the internet program, but it's on foreign entities.
It surveils foreigners and foreign entities. But by the way, that sweeps up Americans as well, and we could have another conversation about that. But it's unclear to me that we've developed any intelligence through the metadata program that's led to the disruption of plots that we couldn't have developed through other data and other intelligence. We ought to, again, have that discussion. It's hard for me to sit here without further declassification of all this information to make the case, but I'm not convinced that the collection of this vast trove of data has led to the disruption of plots.
We heard the president say this week, no one is listening in on your phone calls. Let me just take that one step further. Is anyone recording the phone calls of Americans around whom there is no suspicion?
On the metadata program, the 205 program, excuse me, Candy, it's 215, a lot of numbers flying around. On 215, everything I know is that it's metadata being collected. On the 702 program, the so-called PRISM program, content is being intercepted, and Americans are being swept up in that program, and I'm calling for a clear policy there as well. But my focus this week has been on all the phone records that are being accumulated without Americans' knowledge.
One of the things we went back and looked at was the FISA Court that was set up to make sure that when the government wants to go specifically look at something, that they have court approval for it. There were almost 1,800 applications for authority to conduct electronic surveillance last year. 40 of them were modified by the courts, but none of them were turned down. What does that say to you about the court?
The court is operating under the law. The court is operating under the direction, if you will, of the law. The administration works with the court. My concern isn't so much with the court, but it's with the law and the way it's being interpreted and the way in which the NSA then collects millions of records on a daily basis of Americans' calls. And that's where my focus is. We could, if we change the law, Candy, then direct the FISA Court to operate in a different way. It is one of the checks and balances that's in place, but I think the ultimate check, the ultimate balance is the American public understanding to what extent their personal phone calls are being collected, even if only in this category of metadata.
And finally, Senator, the problem, I think, with a discussion about security and safety is nobody wants to be the person that says, you can collect this much information, but not this much. And then to find out that had we just collected a little more, we could have stopped something. How do you take that on when, as you say, if you want to reopen the Patriot Act and figure that out? You don't want to be the guy that says, don't collect the information that later we learn would have been useful.
Yeah, but I also don't want to be the guy that, as President Adams did, put the Alien and Sedition Acts in place and that they were seen to be an overreach. I don't want to be the guy that interned Japanese Americans as World War II began. I don't want to be the guy that approved the warrantless wiretapping of the Bush administration. There is a balance here. We've proven that we can be safe, but we can also respect our civil liberties and the Bill of Rights. And that's why this discussion is so important. It's why I'm proud to be an American. We're able to have these debates. The Intelligence Committee ought to be confident they can make the case and prevail. But let's have the debate. Let's have the discussion. Let's not have this law interpreted secretly like it has been for a number of years now.
Senator Mark Udall, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Candy.
When we return...